Hello, I'm Montgomery County Auditor Carl Keith, and welcome to another episode of Odds and Ends. Odds and Ends is a program that's hosted and sponsored by the Montgomery County Auditor's Office. And each episode we meet with people from the community and interesting people from the community, people who are making a difference in our community, and find out more about them and find out some of the responsibilities they have. And some of them interact with the auditor's office very directly, and some of them kind of indirectly. So it's always kind of an interesting experience for us to get to know people on a better basis, get to know them better. And so, it's particularly for me as the county auditor, because I have such a wide variety of responsibilities. I'm the county's chief fiscal officer. I'm the county's chief assessor. I'm the chief sealer of weights and measures. So my name is on every gas pump in the county, and we have just a number of responsibilities. But one of the responsibilities that we have in my office that I have just grown to appreciate more and more during my career is that it's our responsibility to sell dog licenses and to issue dog licenses. And so that gives us an opportunity to meet people in the community and be active in the community at a whole different level. And so we've really ended up enjoying that, or I've ended up enjoying that as the auditor. And so that brings us to our guest today. I'm really thrilled to have Amy Bohart here with me today. Amy is the director of the Montgomery County Animal Resource Center. And so we're going to learn more about Amy. Amy, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you for having me.
So we're going to find out more about Amy, and we're going to also find out about her responsibilities at the ARC, the Animal Resource Center, and some of the services and programs that are available there. And we'll probably talk a little bit about how people might want to be involved, if they want to be involved, or how they can be involved, and if animal control is an important issue, I think, for a number of people. And I know we issue tens of thousands of licenses every year. We'll get all into more of that. But Amy, you've been with the Resource Center now how long?
5 years.
5 years,
Yep.
but not 5 years as the director.
That's correct.
So you were appointed director, and so the Animal Resource Center falls under the direction and administration of the Montgomery County Commissioners.
That's correct.
And that's kind of a thing about county government. There's all these checks and balances and overlapping responsibilities. So as the auditor, I'm responsible for selling the dog licenses and overseeing that process and issuing of the licenses. But then the commissioners really oversee the Animal Resource Center and dog control or animal control policies. And so you work for the commissioners as part of the ARC.
Yes.
She's only been there how long as the director?
I was appointed March 1st of 2023, this year.
Just this year. But you've been there 5 years. So what were you doing before that?
I was the shelter manager.
Okay.
Yes. I was primarily responsible for everything that was going on within the four walls of the shelter. So our clinic team, our customer service group, as well as our shelter care staff who are caring for the animals every day.
So, but you've not been the shelter. So that was your first experience with the Resource Center? You were doing something other than prior to that as well, right?
Prior to being the shelter manager?
Yeah.
Yes. So I've actually been with Montgomery County for 17 years.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes, I came from, before I moved to the Animal Resource Center, I was actually a supervisor within the legal division of the Child Support Enforcement Agency.
Okay.
So a little different track at the time.
Well, what brings you to that track then?
So it's interesting, actually. I guess to sum it up in a nutshell, in 2018, the Animal Resource Center went through an assessment from a third-party consultant. The name of that group was Team Shelter USA. And the purpose of that assessment was to actually do a deep dive, and just check that, are we implementing best practices? How are we doing as a shelter? There were some concerns from our community at the time in terms of the numbers of deaths that were occurring in the shelter and things of that nature. So when that consultant was done with their assessment, they issued a recommendation for 174 things that we should be doing differently.
Okay, 174.
Yes. And so that was quite the monumental shift and task. And I was asked to go and temporarily join the team to help project manage some of that change and embed some of those things into the organization. Well, about 6 months into that journey, I was asked to remain on board permanently as the shelter manager.
So you then came over, was it Bob Gruel? Is that?
Yes, that's correct.
And so he was appointed director. I think for a time he was the interim director and then was made
right.
permanent. So you the two of you, because I remember this vaguely, this report and things, and there was some controversy as a result of the study and everything, but things have really turned around there, wouldn't you say?
Yes, absolutely.
So the number of we'll talk about some of the changes that came out of that. I mean, the county used to be really involved in cats, and I think we've gotten out of the cat business, haven't we?
We have. And to speak to that a little bit, our building is really not set up for cats.
Not set up for cats at all.
Not
really,
at all.
no.
Well, let's put it this way, definitely not to co-house dogs and cats.
Oh, no.
And so the easiest way to put it is to place a cat in their housing at the time. We would have to walk through dog housing to get them there. So you can imagine the fear and anxiety and stress that caused for those cats.
Sure.
So yes, we did in 2019 decide to focus solely on dogs. We are officially the county dog warden for Montgomery County, and so it made sense.
Yeah, people are familiar with the term dog warden.
Yeah.
Would be your title? Are you the dog warden?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah. And so it made sense to focus on dogs. I would say the way to summarize the changes that occurred, because I could speak forever on all of the changes, but it's really about changing the model from an old school look at capturing animals, holding them for a period of time legally, and then potentially killing them, depending on the situation. And instead of that model, we're moving to a model where we try to keep pets and people together. We estimate there's 140,000 dogs that live in this county, in Montgomery County. And, we have space in our shelter to hold about 80 dogs. That's not even 1% of the population. And so the better thing for the dogs and the people is to keep them together. Historically, animal control was built back in the 1800s to keep humans safe from the potential spread of rabies from dogs. And that has no longer been the concern it used to be when the vaccine for rabies was invented for dogs, which happened around the 60s, 1960s. And that really drastically changed the reason to capture all the animals and round them up from the streets and keep all of us humans safe. So now it's and dogs have changed their purpose in our lives since then too, right? They're much more our companion, our family member. They give us stress release. They help us with depression. They teach our kids responsibility. They do so many great things, and keeping them in our lives is what we want.
Wow. So now, have you considered yourself an animal lover, a dog person, a dog lover? Do you have dogs?
I do. Yeah, I would say I am. I have one dog. Her name is Layla.
Okay.
She was rescued from SIXA.
Okay.
Believe it or not, months before I was assigned to Animal Resource Center.
Okay. Did you always have dogs, though, as a child? Did you have dogs?
I did. Yes, I had a dog growing up, and then I also had a dog in my early adult life as well.
What is Layla?
Believe it or not, she's a true mutt. We did a DNA test on her as a puppy because I thought she might turn into a larger breed dog, which was fine. Not turn into one, but that she was going to be a large breed dog.
Sure.
And we found that she was more than 6 different things.
Oh, wow.
Pit bull, lab, Shar-Pei, Chow Chow. I could go on. She's a true mutt, and I'll tell you, she's the smartest, best dog I've ever owned.
I had, and it's not my current dog, but I had one that it was kind of a lab-looking dog, but she'd been abandoned. And I found her out in the cold and tried to find the owner we couldn't find. So I decided, well, I'll just keep this dog. It was just a pup, probably just barely weaned. But I took it to the vet, and she had some pretty good sized paws on her, So I took her to the vet. And I was living in an apartment at the time, and the apartment said I could keep the dog as long as she didn't get any bigger than 20 pounds.
Oh.
So I asked my vet, I said, I told him that, I said, do you think she'll get bigger than 20 pounds? And he goes, oh yeah, she's going to be bigger than 20 pounds, but if you watch her diet, you might be able to keep her to 30. Well, she was 90.
Oh my gosh.
She was nice. She grew to be 90, and but I asked him the same thing. We didn't. This was back before we did DNA test.
Yeah.
But I asked him the same thing. Says I know she's mixed.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think she's mixed with? And
Mm-hmm.
he just studied her a little bit, and he says, I think we should just stick with mixed. But yeah, I love dogs, and it's an important thing that we do. So that you do, I think, caring for these animals. 80 a day. I follow you on Facebook, and there'll be every once in a while I'll see an entry on Facebook that'll monitor how many dogs were in the shelter over the weekend and stuff. So sometimes you have more than that.
Yes, sometimes we do.
But you have fosters and people who foster some animals, and you have relationships with care adoption centers or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, believe it or not, when I joined Animal Resource Center 5 years ago, we did not have a foster care program.
Okay.
And so that was a huge piece in the recommendations at the time of something we should be doing and something we implemented. We last year had around 24 foster caregivers, so not a ton, but still a healthy couple dozen.
Mm-hmm.
This year we've almost doubled that number.
Oh, wow.
We're at 42 active fosters right now. And we have fostered more than 80 dogs this year. So we're growing that program. It's slowly but surely coming along. That number represents almost a triple increase in terms of the number of dogs fostered last year compared to what we've done this year. So they're huge. They matter for dogs. If you put yourself in the situation of a dog or in the scenario of a dog in the shelter, and imagine yourself trapped in a jail cell, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Your choice is stripped from you. You are around so many unfamiliar sights and sounds and other dogs barking and new people you don't know or recognize. And you can quickly become a little nuts. You go crazy. And you're scared, you're anxious, you're stressed, you're bored. We could go on, right? And so that environment only opens itself to deterioration for dogs, typically. And so a foster environment is so critical because it helps that home environment be a reality for a dog in the shelter, where they can quickly decompress, they can relax, they can have some quiet, they can have choice. If they want to go here, they want to go hide here, they want to go eat.
Yeah.
They have choice, which is huge for dogs. And so fosters are an instrumental part of what we do. They're critical to saving lives.
So what were some of the other services that you, besides sheltering animals or fostering animals? What do you think the most important services or the most popular services that the shelter, or I refer to the shelter, you
Sure.
refer to it the center, ARC, I think, right? Is
Sure.
it ARC?
Yeah.
And what do you think the community relies on the most?
I think three things that I notice they rely on most.
Okay.
One is our food pantry. We do have donations pretty steadily come in throughout the year from various generous community members, and oftentimes those items can go right back out to our community who has the greatest need.
Okay.
So that food pantry last year actually served over 800 dogs,
Oh, wow.
and last year over 900 cats.
Oh, wow.
So it's an amazing resource, and we continue to try to spur more donations so that we can just continue to get more supplies out there for
That's
folks.
great. That's great.
Yeah. The second is purchasing dog licenses, believe it or not. Last year, we sold 49,500 dog licenses out of the ARC. And so that's officers out in the field selling them as well as folks coming into the ARC, but that's quite a number during that license year. I know I misquoted that. There was 49,500 sold altogether.
Right.
In our entire county. ARC sold 7,600 of those.
Yeah, we have, I think we currently have what we call outposts, 13
Yes.
outposts in the county that sell licenses for us during license season. But the ARC and the SIXA and the Humane Society, they sell licenses for us all year long, but some of the others only during the 2 months that we're between December 1st and January 31st.
Right.
But yeah, you're one of our top outposts out there. No dog leaves the shelter without being a license.
That is
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yes, we promote it very heavily. And we understand it's technically the law, but we also recognize there's so much more that a license does for an animal, right? In terms of being its ticket home if it does happen to get loose. We hold on to those dogs longer if they do end up in the shelter. And your site online actually makes it very easy to trace those tags all the time, at any time.
I would tell people it's typically several hundred animals are returned home or come back to their families as a result of having a license. We always award the number one license to a dog for one reason or another. Typically we auction them off as a fundraising thing, charitable thing for either the Humane Society or SIXA. But a few years ago, after the tornado, we awarded the number one dog to a number one license to a dog that had been lost during the tornado and was missing for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
And finally came back home. And but one of the things that the owner said at the time was she'd never had a license on the dog. And if she'd had a license on the dog or had the dog microchipped, probably would have been reunited a lot sooner than that.
You're absolutely right. I have no doubt in my mind.
Yeah. So that's an important thing. So yeah, as you mentioned, we're in the midst of dog license season. Can we show this? Can you see this on camera? Probably not really well, but this is let me see where I'm going. This is my dog, and it's a little button that we wear that's Winston says every dog deserves a home and a license. So we're in the middle of season. So the dog license, besides being the law and being their ticket home, it provides a source of funding for the resource center. Is that correct?
Yes, it does.
And so that's important too, because of all the different services that you provide, that doesn't come cheap, and it doesn't come without the need for funding.
Yes.
So we appreciate people stepping up and purchasing and renewing their licenses. So it's still $20.
That's correct.
$20 to renew that's for a dog that's been spayed or neutered, and then it's $24 for an unaltered animal.
Yes.
And that's been the fee for some time.
Yes, you're correct.
So we want to encourage people to go out there and renew their license or get a license if they don't have one. Again, the deadline is January the 31st.
Yes.
And the fee doubles after January 31st. So you don't want to waste you don't want a $20 fee to become a $40 fee overnight. And that's the law. We can't do anything about that. I mean, sometimes people will come in and try to negotiate that with us, but we can't.
Yep.
So what are some of the other services then that you provide?
In addition, we, as you mentioned earlier, adoption is also a critical service for us to connect pets home. With an adoption, by the way, there's lots of things that come with that. We have microchipping of the dog. Spay and neuter comes with that. Heartworm testing, and we'll also provide treatment for the heartworm if they have the heartworm. They get a license, and they have their rabies vaccine, and all of that is included in their adoption. And in addition to that, that dog is eligible to participate in our free obedience classes for the life of the dog.
That's really neat. I think that's really neat. Now, who does that?
So we actually have a volunteer, a behaviorist, who volunteers his time to come in and offer those classes once a month, potentially more if we can get more interest. But yeah, it's a really neat thing. I
mentioned Winston. My dog. So Winston is a rescue from the ARC.
Yeah.
We rescued him about 11 years ago. And he'd been injured. He'd been in a car accident and had to have his surgery on his leg. And he stayed at the resource center with his leg immobilized for like 2 months before we were able to bring him home. We've never taken advantage of the free monthly obedience class. Maybe we should have.
Yes. In addition to adoption, too, we have microchipping for owned pets. I do feel that that's a service that I don't know many take advantage of. Last year, we only chipped 170 owned pets. And again, I told you earlier, I think we estimate 140,000 dogs that live in the county.
Yeah.
So they're, at the moment, being offered for $10 a chip. Normal price is $25 a chip, which is still quite a steal compared to most veterinary clinics who also microchip pets. So.
We every year during dog license season, we said we issued almost 50,000 this past year, but we know that is far less than the number of dogs that are in the community, and it's hard to estimate. But there are ways of doing that, and that's how you come up with your number. So what's your number?
Yeah. Roughly 140,000.
140,000. It's so hard to estimate, my wife, when she and I first started dating, our first date when I came to her house, she had a dog. I got to meet Hank, her dog, and Hank didn't have a license, and so first thing I did when I got back to work was to buy Hank a license and send to him. I tell people, some people send flowers after their first date or candy or something. I send dog licenses, but a lot of people that keep their dogs indoors and things, they just don't see the value of it.
Sure.
But we're trying to make a case for it that it's valuable, just for the community as a whole, to be able to support animal control functions that's being done at the Animal Resource Center. It's a small price to pay.
Yes, and like you said, with the woman who had the license of the year, her dog was missing for 6 months. I think it really speaks volumes to the importance of it.
No doubt about it. So, and again, we mail notices to people. The licenses are available online. You can purchase them online. They're available at the ARC, at different outposts around the county. We have 13 different outposts around the county. And there's a lot of veterinarian clinics, government buildings, some of the city buildings out and township halls out and around the county. So there's a number of places where people can buy them in person or mail them, and they can mail them in. But last year, we've started selling more and more online. I think last year we sold almost 60% of our licenses were purchased online. So that's a safe, easy, convenient way to do it.
Yeah.
But we've definitely seen the numbers drop since COVID.
Yes.
People have just stopped raising dogs or having dogs as members of their family? What do you think accounts for that?
I honestly don't have a good answer for that.
We don't either.
I wish we knew the answer, right? So we could try to help reach those folks. I don't necessarily believe it's due to a reduction in the number of pets in households.
Okay.
I don't believe that. It could very well be lack of awareness. To be honest, I didn't know you had to license your pet till I got my most recent pet that I have, Layla. Okay. So I do believe awareness can be a factor for folks. I do think cost, though a small fee for what your fee could look like if you're trying to get your dog back out of the shelter or other casualties that could occur, I think cost can still be a prohibitor for some folks.
Yeah. Well, raising a pet is not cheap. I mean, it comes with certain expenses, and people. I know sometimes I talk with people that have never had a pet before. I said, well, they're like particularly a dog. Cats kind of can take care of themselves.
Yeah.
But particularly a dog's like having a baby in the house that never grows up.
Yeah.
And so if you've never had that experience, you need to think about that, because it's not for everybody.
Right.
It's not for everybody, and it's expensive.
Yes.
Between vaccinations and food and medicine, it can be costly. But as you said earlier, what a wonderful addition to any household. I know we feel that way about Winston, and they're just mean so much to us that you want to do the right thing for them.
Yes.
And certainly licensing them is one of the things that you can do that's right.
Absolutely.
So if people want to volunteer or you do have volunteers, yes?
We do, absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about what kind of volunteer opportunities there are.
Yeah, so we have at the moment many position descriptions online, so anyone can check out, hey, what's available? What types of things could I do? We can do things from walking dogs, helping us clean our facility, helping our clinic team with various medical needs, things like office support, different phone calls or scheduling or different things we may need to accomplish on that front. It's quite a wide variety. And we also are looking at the moment for volunteer leads folks who can help lead some of our volunteers
Okay.
in our pack, as well as foster advocates and our rescue partner advocates as well. So there's lots of different opportunities. I would highly encourage folks to visit our website at mcanimals.org and check out the Get Involved page. That's
Okay.
where we speak to the volunteer opportunities, fostering, and our rescue opportunities as well.
Very good. Well, Amy, the time's just flown by, but we can sit here and talk about what a fascinating subject and what you all do out there. I know every time I've been out there, I've just really been impressed at the staff and their care and concern for the animals that's in their care, and what a wonderful facility. I've been around a while, and I've seen that facility. With the facility beforehand and now the facility there, and what a wonderful facility, and what we're trying to do to take care of these animals, and appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you, Carl. We appreciate that.
Well, thank you for joining us, and thank everybody for joining us for this episode of Odds and Ends, and we will see you next time. Have a good day.